Hello and welcome to Charters Talk 4630. I'm Stacey Mallory and this is Kyle D. And we welcome you for joining us today. If this is your first time here, I'm happy you joined us and we'll be grateful if you decide to join our community. Thank you to everyone that subscribed and continue to help us grow. And for the ones that haven't, I would appreciate before you exit this podcast that you do so. This way you'll be notified whenever we go live or release the latest content. You can also hear us wherever you get your podcasts. And last, please go to your browser and check out more Chargers content from some great writers, along with myself, on stormcloud.blog, which is run by my friend and one of our own, Kyle D. Kyle, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, Stacey. I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Got a big game coming up this weekend.
I know, a real test. No, this isn't the Panthers, man. This is a real hard-nosed team with a great coach, so it's really exciting.
Yes. In the past, I love this now, for the whole offseason, we always been talking about Harbaugh and Greg Roman instilling these schematic plays where the blocking is opening up huge holes and the running game, how we're going to dominate with the running game. And we are looking at that and trying to vision that with Justin Herbert and saying, how is this going to look? If we just going to be a power running team, where does this leave Herbert? And I'm saying, I remember the last time these two teams played each other, man. And that's when we knew Justin Herbert was one of those dudes in this game. I don't know if you remember that game. Could we go take a look at a little bit of that and see some of these throws? Let's look at this 22-yard line of pocket starting to collapse. He looks like a human joystick as he makes 3, 4, 5 Pittsburgh Steelers defenders miss, and he's in the end zone for his third touchdown on the night. Although Pittsburgh showed their championship pedigree by fighting back, this one here, unfortunately for the Steelers. Man, I remember that night. I forgot where we were. Me and my wife was on vacation, and she was sleeping because we had hung out and had some drinks, and she was sleeping, and we're in the hotel room, and I got the game on. She's telling me, keep the volume down. And, man, there were so many ups and downs in that game, but every time the Steelers did anything, Justin answered back, and I'm running around the room trying to keep my mouth closed, not to yell. And now this team looks so different now, as compared to the last time these two teams met. You had the game plan for Justin Herbert, and most teams, when you did, he still put up his numbers and did his work. I don't know what this is going to look like now because both of these teams do not look the same as they did a couple of years ago when they last played.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh still has the same mentality, right? They still have the same identity. They just don't have – they used to be kind of what we're probably aiming to get to, where they have a quarterback that can step in and be the stud whenever they need him. But they did like to lean on their running game a bit and on their defense, and that's what the direction we're going. Stacey, I got to admit, when you started playing that film – I started feeling those old emotions again. I'm just like, okay, here we go. We're checking down to our running back and he's going to do something with it. But we don't it came back, man. And I don't like those feelings. I love where we're at now. I like that we could smash it. I know you got some more tape for us to look at of how the offense is running now. Let's take a look at that because we're going to look like a whole different offense this go around. We have a whole different mentality, a whole different culture in play. It's actually, as you wrote in your article the other day, Stacey, that these are two teams that are coming in with very similar mentalities.
Yes.
Very physical. They're going to try to win at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
And we haven't been that in some time. So I'm fired up for this game.
Yes, I am too. And you're right. They do look like two different teams, but they mirror each other because the Chargers are a team that throws the ball all over the yard and put up a lot of points. And I go back to the Dan Fouts era. When you want to talk about putting up high points every game, you want excitement, you got it. Whether it was Natron Means, whether it was Marion Butts, whether it was James Brooks, it didn't matter. But we never was able to win any championships because we didn't have that defense. And with Harbaugh coming in now, man, and bringing in Greg Roman, let's look at some of these. This picture here. As this play was developing, I stopped it right here. And look at how they all slide into the left. And then the next picture, as you see it start to develop, you have Gus Edwards, that's the leading fullback at this time. Zion, Rashawn Slater, Bozeman, it's hat on hat across. And then you look at this one here, look at the lane as it's opened up. And let's look at some of these runs by J.K. Dobbin. That because of his injury history. Man, look at how he hopped. Remember how you used to see LaDainian Thomas used to hop into those gaps? Man, and then the speed and the power and the ability to make others miss in the open field. I didn't really appreciate that flipping in the end zone because I was afraid that he might hurt his back or something like that. And I believe Joe Ortiz told him no more flipping. But man, did we get a steal with this guy?
Stacey, I know people love the passing game. I know that that's what's considered fun and exciting. I don't understand why people don't love this brand of football. That to me is more aesthetically pleasing. It's more exciting to watch. I was telling you before we started the show, man, or whenever I want to go back and relive my best Chargers memories, I just put on LT highlights and I watch them and I go, oh, this is a whole different kind of football we were playing. This smash mouth, hard nose, like we're just going to run it down your throat football. You know, we're coming at you with it and there's nothing you can do about it. And that to me was so much more fun than the visually appealing but hasn't led to results heavy passing attack that we've been in the last X amount of years. And the success that they've had so far, although the teams haven't been the strongest, I mean, stuff like, I don't know if you saw the 33rd team's stats just that came out yesterday. The Chargers are second in the average rushing yards before contact at 2.51. 2.51, Stacey. That's borderline what we were averaging per carry before. And now the offensive line is creating those gaps like you were just showing, getting their running backs 2.5 yards downfield before they even have to make a move or dodge a defender. That's incredible to me.
It really is. You're right. I'm so used to them just scoring at will, and we got used to that. But Jim knows that you can't win championships that way. If that's the case, Jim Kelly would have won a championship. Dan Marino would have won a championship. Dan Fouts would have won a championship. You know what I mean? Peyton Manning would have won more than 2 with the prolific offense that he had. So I'm saying it's refreshing to see. Before we go a little bit more into that, I think Justin Herbert don't get enough credit because he's a dual threat as well. No, when he take off, he's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not a scrambling quarterback like that. But if the pocket breaks down and there's open field, Justin can do these kind of things. Collapse on the left side, and he runs straight down, and he sees daylight. He runs forward. He gets the first down. And on this play here, the left side of the pocket collapse, leaves the back door open on the right side, and Justin Herbert takes off, gets plenty of yards for the first down, and the Chargers take down Pittsburgh in SoFi, 41-37. You're going to see a lot more as the season go on, as long as his foot is not an issue. And you started to see it in the Carolina Panthers game where he started to run and pick up 8 yards, and he just needs to slide. We don't want him to put himself at risk and get hurt. But the one thing I love, Jim Harbaugh, he's established an identity since he's been here. You know, these guys know who they are. This team is winning their battles in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And I want to give some love to the offensive line because these are 3 names we don't talk about. We talk about Justin Herbert, J.K. Dobbins. We talk about the defense and all. Brad Bozeman, Trey Pipkins, and Zion Johnson. We don't talk about them enough. Brad Bozeman, he was coming behind the all-pro Corey Linsley, who unfortunately, due to health issues, had to step away from the game. He was important to Justin Herbert because of his high level of play and calling out protections on the line. And if you look at some of the blocking that you saw on those running plays, Trey Pipkins, Zion Johnson, and Brad Bozeman have been doing their jobs. They've been the ones, we talk about the 2 tackles, Rashawn Slater, but those runs where JK is getting through those gaps, those are created because Zion and Brad Bozeman and Pipkins is winning their one-on-one battles in the trenches. And we don't talk about them enough. And I think we should give this offensive line a little bit of love because we never talk about them, but they do all the dirty work.
Yeah, I thought Trey would have been going into this season, I thought Trey was going to be a failed experiment right off the bat. And it's nothing against Trey. I just didn't think he had the strength to be, to be inside. His greatest attributes were his slide step, his mobility. But, early in his career, the first 3 years, the second that he would engage a defender or an edge rusher, he'd be fine on his stepping, and he's trying to make him push to the outside on that outside edge. But the second he engaged a defensive end, he would get bent over backwards, man. He was pretty brutal at the point of contact.
Yeah.
Now he's improved his functional strength and is actually getting a little bit of push and some movement. He looks much better as a guard than I ever would have imagined he would. I
Yeah.
still don't know if that should be where he ends up or if this is a band-aid for the year.
Mhm.
He might still be a guy that we look to move to another team next year, and let him go and play tackle, which is his more natural position. But if they do find a way to make him a guard convert that, Penn Herbert gets him a little more strength in the off season, I'm impressed so far, man. I can't
Yeah.
dog him too much.
Yeah.
We'll see if that continues, but
Yeah. I actually look, a lot of this I think is contribute. I felt like the last 3 years under Brandon Staley, um, it's just unfortunate because it seemed like those were 3 years wasted where we really could have did some good things because on talent, and I know the game is won between the white lines, but on paper, this was one of the most talented teams in the National Football League. And on offense and on defense. You think about Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett, and Keenan and Mike Williams and all the weapons that you got on the defensive side. I just thought that this team was so poorly coached. And the thing I like about Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they look at these guys and they figure out what you do best. And one of the things that was wrong with Pipkins, he was way too slow when you take that first step. When a pass rush was coming, he always got beat off the first step.
Hmm.
And they would just run around him most of the time like he was standing in cement. But moving him over to guard and I guess teaching him to play with controlled aggression, I see a different Pipkins now. And you're right. I was like you was. I didn't think he would be on the roster, to be totally honest with you. I thought he was gone. I thought he was another Storm Norton on the right side.
Mhm.
But now look at these 2 games that you've seen. If you ain't mentioned anything about Zion Johnson, Brad Bozeman, who we worried about because he had some injuries too and he's getting long in the tooth, and we were worried about Trey Pipkins, and we haven't mentioned their name in these 2 games. That's a good thing.
It's a really good thing. And you brought up that, we were worried about the center position because of Corey Linsley leaving. We were also worried about the center position just as much because when we didn't have Corey last year, we had Will Clapp, and we saw how the offense
Oh yeah.
fell apart when you didn't have a good center.
Yes.
It's a really good point, Stacey. They're doing a very good job. Bozeman is doing a yeoman's job right now, holding it down.
Mhm.
It's going to be really interesting to see how many of these pieces carry into next year and how we
Yes.
do throughout the duration of the season. Because one of
Yeah.
my biggest positions to upgrade has been the center. I would love to see if center of the future put right into the middle of that line. Bozeman
Yes.
can play guard as well, if depending on who they want to keep out of that bunch. But it's an interesting topic, man, and it's going to be really interesting seeing how many of these guys that are in that same mold, the Denzel Perrimans that have been doing amazing
Oh,
on defense that were brought in on a 1-year deal. How many, Christian Fulton, how many of these guys on these 1-year deals are in their contract year
yeah.
are going to be kept, because this is a team of mercenaries that Harbaugh and Ortiz brought in that he's made a family. And
Yeah.
a lot of these guys are looking to reestablish their market value and either go somewhere else or get re-signed here for a good amount of more money. So
Yes.
that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true too. I hope so, man. I know we'll have a lot of money to spend. I know Keenan
Mhm.
Allen, them guys are off the books next year, and they'll have a lot more money to spend. We already see an example of how Joe Ortiz draft. We know he's really good with his draft picks and collecting compensatory picks, and we see that he stays on the horn around the clock, always trying to make this team better with whoever he can bring in. And then Jesse Minter with this defense, man. I got some footage I just want to play for when you look at this. This is what the Chargers didn't have, man. When you got Abanaya and you had Puna Ford,
Mhm.
look at how
Mhm.
they taking on 2 and 3 blockers and allowing Denzel Perriman and Joey Bosa, the linebackers, to run around and make tackles. Look here. Puna Ford pushing. He didn't get the tackle, but he pushed the pile backwards and caused a traffic jam right there, and you were able to make a good tackle. But Look at this play here. Look at the traffic jam right there. We haven't had
Mhm.
two guys that were big and stout that can hold their own. And man, Harbaugh had the right idea. Remember when we used to have the running game against opposing teams, gashed us up the middle all the time? You're not going to see that with these two big guys up on the line now.
No, and with Denzel behind them, man. I remember a couple years when we had Denzel, our rush defense was insanely different when he was
Yes.
on the field and off the field.
Look
It
at
was like a top unit when he would play. And then
right.
when he was off the field, that's when we would get gashed. He
Yes.
is a difference maker, and
Yes.
he's one of the players that is a victim of the league moving away from valuing those traditional thumpers, those
Yes.
traditional run stuffing linebackers, but
Yeah.
you cannot ignore how much of an impact he has and the role that he plays. And our linebacking room is exactly what you want. They all
Yes.
have different roles. I've
Yes.
never heard of a team switching the green dot like they've been switching between those
Right.
three guys. That's really neat. But
Yeah.
I love it all the way around, man.
And plenty of depth too, man. We didn't have depth like this in a long time.
Yeah.
Like if someone gets hurt, I'm not as concerned as I used to be a couple of years ago because I know that you have really good depth. I saw a clip last night before they came out against the Carolina Panthers. And Jim Harbaugh was talking to them guys before they came on the field. He said,
Go in the stadium. Their music becomes our music. Their crowd is our crowd. Right from the beginning, we take this thing over. Set the tone.
and he said it in a way that, that if you didn't do it, that there might be a problem.
Yeah, that's it.
When I heard that, it made me think of my father. I got chills. I thought about my father. I said, wow, man, that's why these guys is playing loose. They playing free. They playing fast. They playing physical. They pay attention to detail. They know what their jobs is, what they're supposed to do, what their roles are. And you can see Harbaugh's imprint all over this team. And like you said, it don't look like it was the last time we faced the Steelers. But I know with this team playing physical and running the ball downhill, taking a defensive tackle that's 300 pounds and making him the fullback and putting two tight end sets in there, and you got 9 in the box, and they're going to run, and you still can't stop it. You could take that into any month of the football season. You could take that in Chicago when it's freezing. You could take that into New England when it's a snowstorm. You could take that into January and February, and you can win that way. And we've seen it over and over and over. So I love it. I love it.
Most of these teams, Stacey, are built to stop the pass. And that's why we've seen linebackers get smaller and smaller and lighter and lighter. So what do? Let's put in a 300-pound fullback. And we saw Scott Matlock win on the last game. He had a couple plays where he got 2 blocks in. He took out a guy at the line of scrimmage and got downfield and made a block. And that's incredible stuff. And to build on your point, Stacey, did we get those kind of chills listening to Staley talk ever? I mean, I don't want to bag on the guy, but when we're talking about the difference between a motivating head coach, I think there's a place for Stacey as a Stacey. There's a place for Staley as a coach. There's a place for Stacey as a coach too. There's a place for Staley as a coach, but it's not this mold of this head coach that carries that kind of gravitas. He would try to get in guys' faces, and you never felt it. It always felt authentic to me.
Listen, the one that did it for me was, unfortunately, I hate to bring it up, but in that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars in that playoff game, we were up 27-0, right? And when it started collapsing, and Joey and the referee got into something, whatever was said, it pissed the referee off. Referee threw a flag. Joey was walking away from him. He threw it anyway. So I guess after the referee started thinking about it, he said, "The hell with it." He threw the flag. And Joey completely lost it. He came on the sideline, and I mean, he took his helmet and he slammed it to the ground, and Staley ran and got it and gave it to him, and he slammed it again. That's when I knew we don't have the right guy.
Yeah.
Because he would never do that to Harbaugh. He would never do that to Mike Tomlin or Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick or Andy Reid. You would never see that happen. So that's why I love having Harbaugh, because other than Marty Schottenheimer, man, we haven't had a true leader at the head coach position that knew what he was doing. And you look and you see the defensive players. He keep these guys fresh. I remember some games we were playing the Chiefs, and we were winning. In the fourth quarter, we got worn down because Bosa was just tired. You were just sending Bosa and Chinanu. You're just sending them just blitzing. Really don't play, just blitz. These guys were burned out in the fourth quarter. You see Mentor keep these guys fresh. You see Khalil and Joey in. Then after a while, you see Bud Dupree and Tui Talopo in. And, he keep them guys fresh. So in the fourth quarter, they're still able to play it with the same energy that they did in the first quarter.
And that's a running game too, right? That
Yes.
winning the time of possession battle, it's people you can't discount when people talk about you got to pass because of EPA and all this other stuff. Well, does that measure how quickly your defense is getting back on the field if you're 3 and out in it, or if you're scoring quickly, or whatever the case may be?
Okay.
That running game, man, is I'm loving it. I'm loving everything it's doing. And I know you gotta wrap it up soon, but, but we can go all day talking about this.
Yes. So
addiction, pain.
So I don't know how this game going to go. Of course, I want to win. I want to win this bad because to me, in my opinion, this is a statement game. If I know what you did to the Raiders. I know what you did to Carolina, but it'll really be saying something if you go into Pittsburgh and their home opener and out physical the team that historically is known for being just as physical as any team in the NFL. So I'm saying I think that Cameron Dicker is going to be very important in this game. I think kickers is going to be key. It's going to be a defensive struggle. And I think that whoever wins the turnover battle wins this game.
Okay, I got a prediction for you, Stacey.
Go ahead.
We haven't had to counter yet. They call the running game body blows, right? Well, so far both teams have just been like this, and we haven't had a need to get off the body yet. We've just been plugging away at it. I think this is the game where Tomlin at some point takes that away from us a little bit, and we see Herbert be Herbert. It's not going to be a 350-yard game, but I don't think we're going to see 150, 200-yard effort out of Herbert. I think we might get 250 out of him at least. And they keep the defense honest, and that brings back the running game. I don't think it's not going to go away, but we're not going to be as one-dimensional this game. I think Herbert's going to put a little bit of that to bed.
Yeah, I do believe that too, that you're going to need a little bit more from Justin Herbert as opposed to J.K. Dobbins, because they're going to game plan. They know Harbaugh coming to town. They know what Harbaugh wants to do. They know what he's preaching to the team, and they know they want to come run downhill, and they're going to take it personal, and then they're going to say, we're the ones that's physical. We're the ones. We're not going to let these guys come to California and bully us. So, I don't expect J.K. Dobbins to go off like he's done, but then that's where Herbert can be the wild card. Yeah, I agree. That will do it for this episode, and thanks for joining us here on Charles Talk 4630. Before I go, I just want to say thank you to my partner, Kyle, because we're doing this podcast live from me on my end from New Jersey, and Kyle is from California. So Kyle gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, while some people are still asleep, to help get this podcast done so we can move on with our day. And Kyle, I really, really appreciate you for that, man. I really do.
No problem, Stacey. Remember, I joked last time, 5 o'clock is when we start, man. I'm in the green room and hair and makeup at 4.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, Stacey, it's my pleasure, man. And this works for me as well, because once the sun comes up, I'm on baby duty. So thank you for accommodating me as well, man.
Yes, you're quite welcome, man. Please don't forget to log on to stormcloud.blog if you're looking for more Chargers content. We will be back Monday morning to discuss the recap of this weekend's showdown with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm hoping we'll be reporting that we're 3-0. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that now before exiting this podcast. And as always, be good, be safe, be well, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Stacey, and this is Cal. Peace and bolt up.
Hey, guys, and if you aren't following Stacey yet, if you are not following Stacey on X after a win, you are missing out, because my man lets loose and has fun, and it is must-see content. So make sure, tune in, see what Stacey's up to. We might even hop on another pod again like we did last week, because we get so fired up. So
I just won't have a drink this time. I get a little wired when I have something to drink.
Hey, man, sometimes people need to see it.
Hey, listen, this is pent up frustration from being a Charger fan for a long time. So now that things are starting to look good and go our way, I'm not going to hide my excitement.
Hell no.
That's
Why
right.
would you, man?
That's
Why
right.
would you?
Yes.
Well, have a great one, guys. We'll
All
see
right.
you
You
soon.
too, Cal. See you soon.